The morning briefing at Galactic Council headquarters felt like every other morning briefing for the past 3 centuries. Species representatives from across the galaxy gathered to discuss trade routes, territorial disputes, and the endless bureaucracy that kept 12,000 worlds functioning together. The Kethver Empire controlled most of the discussion, as they had for millennia, while smaller species nodded and agreed to whatever terms the blue-skinned giants proposed. Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Collective barely paid attention. As the report about the Sol system scrolled across his datapad, humans, the report said, were still confined to their single yellow star. Their radio transmissions suggested they had developed basic space travel, but nothing that posed any threat to galactic stability. The Intelligence Division had classified them as Level 2 civilization, suitable for eventual contact once they developed faster-than-light travel. That development, according to their projections, would take at least 200 more years. The report mentioned that human transmissions had grown quieter over the past decade, but this was attributed to their species learning to use more efficient communication methods. No one at the briefing thought to question why a species that had been broadcasting constantly for 60 years would suddenly reduce their transmissions by 90%. The answer to that question was currently sliding through hyperspace toward the Proxima Vel system. Admiral Thomas Reed had spent the last 3 years of his life preparing for this moment. The UES Retribution hung in the darkness of space, its hull black as the void around it, designed to absorb sensor scans rather than reflect them. Behind him, 11 other vessels of the human fleet maintained perfect formation, their crews running through final system checks with the precision that only came from endless drilling. The bridge of the Retribution was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Where alien vessels prioritized comfort and efficiency, human engineering focused on functionality and redundancy. Every system had backup systems, and every backup system had alternatives. The crew moved with quiet efficiency, their voices calm and professional despite the magnitude of what they were about to accomplish. Reed studied the tactical display showing the Proxima Vel system. The trade station orbited the third planet, a massive structure that served as a neutral meeting point for dozens of species. Intelligence reports suggested it housed nearly 1 million beings at any given time, making it the perfect location for humanity's first official contact with galactic civilization. Lieutenant Emma Torres looked up from her communications console. Admiral, we're receiving standard automated greetings from the trade station. They're asking for identification and cargo manifest. She paused, her fingers hovering over the response keys. They're also transmitting docking procedures and customs requirements, Reed nodded slowly. The aliens expected another trading vessel, another routine arrival in what they assumed was a peaceful galaxy. They had no idea that everything was about to change. Do we have a complete scan of their defensive systems? The tactical officer, Commander Sarah Mitchell, consulted her displays. Yes, sir. The station mounts 47 plasma cannons, primarily designed for asteroid defense. Their shield generators are running at minimum power, and their patrol ships are conducting routine flights around the outer marker buoys. No signs of alert status. The contrast was striking. While the aliens conducted business as usual, every human aboard the Retribution was operating at combat readiness. Their weapon systems were powered and targeted, their defensive screens were active, and their fighter bays were prepared for immediate launch. This wasn't paranoia, it was simply how humans approached any unknown situation. Dr. Williams, the ship's xenobiologist, monitored the alien communications traffic flowing through the system. Admiral, based on the transmissions we're intercepting, I'm reading elevated stress levels among the Kethver crew aboard the station. They've noticed our approach vector and they're trying to identify our ship design. Reed allowed himself a small smile. The Retribution's design was indeed unique in galactic terms. Where alien vessels were built for specific purposes, trading or exploration or patrol duties, the Retribution was built for war. Its hull was armored with quantum-locked plating that could withstand direct hits from anything in the known galaxy. Its weapon systems were designed not just to disable enemy vessels, but to destroy them completely. The fusion cannons alone represented a technological leap that would have taken most species centuries to develop. Humans had managed it in 3 years, driven by the knowledge that they were about to enter a galaxy where they would be vastly outnumbered and potentially outgunned. The solution was typically human: build something so devastating that numbers wouldn't matter. "Sir," Torres reported, "the trade station is hailing us directly. They're demanding immediate identification and stating that unregistered vessels are not permitted in this system." Reed straightened in his command chair. This was the moment that would define humanity's future among the stars. They could approach as supplicants begging for acceptance from species that had been traveling between stars for millennia, or they could approach as equals, demanding recognition based on their own strength and capability. "Open a channel," Reed commanded. "All frequencies, maximum broadcast power." The bridge fell silent as every crew member realized they were about to witness history. For decades, humans had wondered what their first words to an alien civilization would be. Scientists had proposed elaborate greetings, philosophers had suggested profound statements about the nature of existence, and diplomats had drafted carefully worded introductions designed to avoid cultural misunderstandings. Reed's message was simpler and more direct than any of them had imagined. "This is Admiral Thomas Reed of the United Earth-Space Command Vessel Retribution. We come seeking dialogue with the Galactic Council. We also come prepared for war." The silence that followed lasted exactly 11 seconds. Then the alien responses began flooding in, and the galaxy learned that humanity had arrived not as explorers or traders, but as warriors who preferred peace but were ready for any alternative the universe might offer. The translation computers aboard Proxima Vel trade stations struggled with the human language patterns. While most galactic species had developed communication systems based on logic and efficiency, human speech carried emotional undertones that confused the automated systems. The phrase "prepared for war" translated differently depending on which linguistic algorithm the computers used, ranging from "ready for conflict" to "equipped for total annihilation." Captain Morthick of the Kethver Imperial Navy had been enjoying what he assumed would be a routine patrol assignment. The trade station was considered one of the safest postings in the galaxy, a place where a different species conducted business. Under the protection of ancient treaties, his 3 hearts began beating faster as he studied the sensor readings from the approaching human vessel. The ship's design violated every principle of galactic engineering. Where civilized species built vessels with smooth curves and efficient energy flows, this human craft was angular and aggressive. Its hull bristled with what could only be weapon systems, and its energy signature suggested power generators far beyond what any trading vessel should require. Morthick had been a naval officer for 40 years, and he recognized a warship when he saw one. His communications officer, a young Kethver named Thielen, looked up from her console with confusion written across her blue features. "Sir, the human vessel is not responding to our standard docking protocols. They're maintaining position at the outer marker and demanding to speak with Galactic Council representatives." Morthick felt the familiar weight of command responsibility settling on his shoulders. First contact with a new species was supposed to be handled by trained diplomats, not military officers. But the humans had approached a military installation, and they had announced their readiness for war. Protocol demanded that he respond as a representative of Kethver authority. "Open a channel," he commanded, his voice carrying the authority of 3,000 years of imperial tradition. "Unknown vessel? This is Captain Morthick of the Kethver Imperial Navy. You have entered a restricted system without proper authorization. State your intentions and prepare to be boarded for inspection." The response came immediately, without the delays that usually accompanied interstellar communication. The human admiral's voice carried a tone that Morthick had never heard before in diplomatic exchanges. It was respectful but firm, polite but utterly unwavering. "Captain Morthick, we appreciate your position, but we will not be submitting to inspection. We are here to establish formal diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council. We request that you contact your superiors and arrange for proper diplomatic representation. Morthic's training kicked in. No species had ever refused inspection at a Kethver installation. The Empire's authority was absolute in this sector, backed by the largest fleet in the galaxy. Admiral Reed, you are in violation of established galactic law. Submit to inspection or face the consequences. The human response changed everything. Captain, we are not subject to your laws because we are not part of your galactic community. We are here to negotiate our entry into that community as equals. However, we want to be clear about our position. The sensors aboard the trade station suddenly screamed warnings as the human vessel's weapons systems activated. Morthic watched in horror as targeting scanners locked onto the station's outer ring, the section that housed primarily storage facilities and was currently uninhabited. The humans had somehow identified the one area of the station where they could demonstrate their capabilities without causing casualties. This is a demonstration of our defensive capabilities, Admiral Reed continued, his voice remaining calm and professional. We do not wish to harm anyone, but we will not be treated as inferiors. The fusion beam lasted exactly 3 seconds. When it ended, a 2-kilometer section of the station's outer ring had simply vanished, vaporized so completely that not even debris remained. The precision of the attack was as terrifying as its power. The humans had struck exactly where they intended, with no collateral damage and no casualties. Morthic's 3 hearts felt like they were about to explode. In 40 years of naval service, he had never seen anything like it. The power required to achieve such destruction was beyond anything in the galactic arsenal. The precision needed to target such a specific location suggested weapons systems of unimaginable sophistication. Dr. Williams aboard the Retribution monitored the alien crew's biometric readings through their own station sensors. The readings were unmistakable. Terror. Pure primal terror. The Kethver had never encountered a species willing to use force as punctuation in a conversation. Captain, Thielen whispered, her voice barely audible. The humans are requesting permission to transmit a message to Galactic Council headquarters. They say they're willing to wait for a proper diplomatic response. Morthic realized that everything had changed in the space of 3 seconds. The humans weren't asking for permission to join galactic society. They were announcing their arrival and requesting recognition as equals. The demonstration had made it clear that they possessed both the capability and the willingness to enforce their demands. Patch them through to Council headquarters, he ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos in his mind. And send a priority alert to Imperial Command. Tell them we have a situation that requires immediate attention. As the human message began, transmitting toward the galactic capital, Morthic studied the tactical display showing the human vessel. It hung in space like a dark promise, its weapons powered down but ready. The humans had delivered their message with perfect clarity. They wanted peace, but they were prepared for war. The implications were staggering. If this single vessel could destroy a section of a major trade station with casual ease, what could their entire fleet accomplish? How many ships did they have? What other weapon systems were they hiding? Admiral Reed's final transmission to the station was polite but firm. Captain Morthic, we thank you for your cooperation. We will remain at this position until diplomatic representatives arrive. We hope this will be the beginning of a long and peaceful relationship between our peoples. Morthic knew that the galaxy would never be the same. The humans had announced their arrival not with words or gifts, but with a demonstration of power. That left no doubt about their intentions. They wanted to join the galactic community, but they would do so on their own terms. The quantum communication networks that connected thousands of worlds across the galaxy had never carried news quite like this. Within 6 hours of the incident at Proxima Vel, every major species had received detailed reports about the human demonstration. The message was simple but terrifying. A previously unknown species had appeared from nowhere, destroyed part of a Kethver installation, and demanded recognition as galactic equals. On the homeworld of the Vorth Collective, the greatest analytical minds in the galaxy worked frantically to understand what they were dealing with. The Vorth had built their civilization on logic and careful study, approaching every problem with systematic analysis. They had immediately begun studying every human transmission they could intercept, looking for clues about this species that had appeared so suddenly. Senior analyst Kethron stood before a massive holographic display showing 60 years of human radio transmissions. The patterns were disturbing. While most species develop technology gradually, building on discoveries over centuries, humans seem to advance in sudden leaps during times of conflict. Their greatest technological breakthroughs had occurred during their global wars, suggesting a species that thrived on competition and struggle. The humans have never known true peace, Kethron reported to the Collective Council. Their entire history is marked by constant warfare between different groups of their own species. They have developed weapons technology far beyond what should be possible for such a young civilization, and they have done so out of necessity rather than curiosity. The implications were staggering. While galactic species had developed slowly, under the protection of established treaties and trade agreements, humans had been forged in the fire of perpetual conflict. They had learned to innovate under pressure, to adapt quickly to new threats, and to treat warfare as a science rather than an art. Ambassador Kyle Harrison found himself in the unprecedented position of being humanity's first official representative to the Galactic Council. The emergency session had been called within hours of the Proxima Vel incident, and he now stood before representatives of over 300 different species, all of whom wanted to understand what kind of beings they were dealing with. The Council chambers on Centauri Station were a marvel of galactic engineering, designed to accommodate the vastly different physiological needs of hundreds of species. The air was carefully balanced to support both oxygen-breathing and methane-breathing beings, while the gravity was set to a compromise level that wouldn't crush smaller species or leave larger ones feeling weightless. Harrison studied the assembled representatives as he prepared to speak. Many of them were clearly afraid, their various forms of body language indicating stress and uncertainty. Others appeared curious, leaning forward to better observe this representative of the species that had shattered galactic peace in a single afternoon. The Zephyrion representative, Tellan, was the first to speak. Ambassador Harrison, your species has demonstrated concerning capabilities. We must know, are humans inherently violent? Can you coexist peacefully with other species? Harrison had prepared for this question during the journey to Centauri Station. Representative Tellan, humans are competitive by nature. We have indeed fought many wars throughout our history, but we have also shown the ability to form lasting alliances and peaceful relationships. Our history includes both conflict and cooperation. The Kethver representative, Warmaster Gralthic, interrupted with barely concealed hostility. Your people destroyed part of our installation without provocation. Is this how humans demonstrate their peaceful intentions? Harrison's response was calm but firm. Warmaster, we demonstrated our capabilities to prevent greater bloodshed. We could have destroyed your entire station, but we chose to target only an uninhabited section. We wanted to show that we are not to be dismissed or ignored, but we have no desire for unnecessary destruction. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans had shown restraint, but they had also shown that they possessed the power to inflict massive damage if they chose to do so. The distinction between could not and would not was not lost on the assembled representatives. Senator Mactor of the Centauri Republic asked the question that everyone was thinking. Ambassador Harrison, how many ships does your species possess? Are you prepared to defend yourselves against the combined fleets of the galaxy? Harrison's answer sent shockwaves through the chamber. Senator, we have brought 12 vessels to this system. However, Earth's industrial capacity is fully mobilized for military production. We can build ships faster than you can destroy them. And every ship we build is designed specifically for warfare. The Vorth representative, Kethron, leaned forward with scientific curiosity. Your species has never known peace, has it? You have been preparing for war your entire existence. Harrison considered the question carefully. We have known periods of peace, but you are correct, the conflict has shaped our development. We have learned that peace is something that must be protected, not something that can be taken for granted. The Zephyrian Talon voiced what every species was thinking. Your people have never truly experienced lasting peace? Harrison's response became legendary throughout the galaxy. We have experienced peace. We simply never trusted it to last. The revelation sent ripples of understanding through the chamber. While galactic species had developed under the protection of the Council and established treaties, humans had developed in isolation, surrounded by potential threats. They had learned to prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. Intelligence. Reports began flooding in from across the galaxy as various species analyzed the human threat. The reports were disturbing. Humans had developed their technology. In isolation, without access to galactic knowledge or assistance, they had achieved in centuries what most species took millennia to accomplish. Ambassador Harrison concluded his presentation with a simple statement that would reshape galactic politics. We did not come here to conquer anyone. We came here to join the galactic community as equals. We offer our friendship to any species that wishes to accept it, but we will not be conquered, controlled, or dismissed. We hope for peace, but we are prepared for any alternative. The chamber erupted in debate as representatives realized that the galaxy had changed forever. The humans had not asked for permission to join the galactic community. They had announced their arrival and demanded recognition based on their own strength and capability. The age of galactic peace was over. The age of galactic balance had begun. The decision to test human resolve came from the highest levels of the Kethver Empire. For 3,000 years, the blue-skinned giants had maintained their position as the galaxy's dominant military force through a combination of superior technology, numerical advantage, and the psychological impact of their reputation. No species had ever successfully challenged Kethver authority, and the Imperial High Command was not about to let a group of upstart humans change that record. Warmaster Kralthan received his orders while his battle fleet was conducting routine patrols near the Rigel system. The transmission was brief and direct. Proceed to Proxima Vel and demonstrate the consequences of defying Imperial authority. The humans had embarrassed the Empire by destroying part of a Kethver installation, and that insult could not go unanswered. Kral Yan was a veteran of dozens of campaigns, a warrior who had earned his rank through skill and courage in battle. His fleet consisted of 30 vessels, including some of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. The flagship, Imperial Vengeance, was a massive dreadnought that had never lost a battle. Its plasma cannons could reduce entire cities to ash, and its shields were strong enough to withstand the combined firepower of lesser fleets. As the Kethver battle fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Proxima Vel, Kralthan expected to find the human vessels either fled or preparing to surrender. Instead, he found 12 dark ships arranged in a formation he had never seen before. They hung in space like predators, their hulls absorbing sensor scans and their weapon systems clearly active. Commander Sarah Mitchell aboard the UES Retribution watched the alien fleet's approach with professional interest. The Kethver ships were impressive by galactic standards, their hulls gleaming with ceremonial decorations and their formations precise and orderly. They moved with the confidence of a species that had never known defeat. Admiral, Mitchell reported, the alien fleet is maintaining standard battle formation. They're broadcasting surrender demands on all frequencies. Their weapons are powered, but not targeted. Admiral Reed studied the tactical display with the calm expression that had carried him through 3 years of preparation for this moment. They're following their doctrine perfectly. Impressive display, demand surrender, expect compliance. He paused, considering his options. They have no idea what they're dealing with. The human fleet's response was immediate and devastating. While the Kethver maintained their traditional formations, the human ships scattered into attack patterns that seemed random, but were actually based on centuries of naval warfare experience. Each human vessel began moving independently, their courses seemingly chaotic but designed to maximize their advantages, while minimizing their exposure to enemy fire. Kralthan First indication that something was wrong came when his sensors lost track of half the human fleet. The dark ships seemed to vanish into the void, their stealth systems more advanced than anything the Kethver had encountered. Where did they go? He demanded of his sensor operator. The answer came in the form of kinetic projectiles striking his fleet from directions that should have been impossible. The humans had somehow positioned themselves above and below the plane of battle, using three-dimensional tactics that confused the Kethver computers. The alien ships were designed to fight other vessels that followed established galactic combat doctrine, not opponents who ignored the rules entirely. Captain Lisa Young, commanding the destroyer UES Defiant, watched her kinetic rounds punch through the shield systems of a Kethver cruiser. The aliens had powerful energy shields, but they were designed to stop plasma and particle beam weapons. Simple chunks of metal moving at significant fractions of light speed passed through the shields. Like they weren't there. Direct hit on Target 7, reported her weapons officer. Their shields are down and we're reading massive internal damage, Yang smiled grimly. That's the problem with energy shields. They're great against energy weapons, but they don't stop old-fashioned projectiles. The Kethver fleet found itself under attack from enemies they couldn't see, using weapons they couldn't stop. Human electronic warfare systems jammed their communications, leaving individual ships isolated and unable to coordinate their responses. Human fighters, unmanned drones controlled by pilots safe aboard the motherships, swarmed through the alien formations like angry insects. Kralthen watched in horror as his fleet was systematically destroyed. The humans fought with a precision and ruthlessness that he had never encountered. They didn't seek glorious battles or honorable victories. They simply eliminated threats with the mechanical efficiency of a species that had learned warfare through necessity rather than tradition. The Imperial Vengeance, the pride of the Kethver Navy, found itself targeted by multiple human vessels simultaneously. Its mighty plasma cannons fired desperately at targets that seemed to vanish as soon as they were acquired. Its shields, designed to withstand the greatest weapons in the galaxy, failed against the sustained barrage of kinetic projectiles and fusion beams. War Master, his communications officer reported, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. They're offering to accept our surrender. Kralthen's pride warred with his military training. The humans had demonstrated superior tactics, superior technology, and superior coordination. His fleet was being destroyed, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. But accepting surrender would mean acknowledging that the Kethver Empire could be defeated. The decision was made for him when the Imperial Vengeance's main reactor began showing signs of critical failure. The human attacks had been so precise that they had targeted the ship's most vital systems while leaving the crew areas relatively intact. They could have destroyed the ship entirely, but they had chosen to disable it instead. All ships, cease fire, Kralthen ordered, his voice heavy with the weight of history. Broadcast surrender on all frequencies. The Battle of Proxima Vel lasted exactly 18 minutes. When it ended, the Kethver fleet had been reduced to drifting wreckage, with only the Imperial Vengeance surviving intact. The human fleet had suffered no casualties and minimal damage to their ships. Admiral Reed's transmission to the surviving Kethver vessel was respectful but firm. War Master Kralthen, we take no pleasure in this victory. We fought only because we were forced to defend ourselves. We offer you safe passage to return to your people with this message. Earth seeks peaceful coexistence with all species. We will not be the aggressors in any conflict, but we will defend ourselves against any threat. Kralthen's response was barely a whisper. Your terms are acceptable, Admiral. We will carry your message to the Imperial High Command. As the crippled Kethver flagship limped away from the battle site, the galaxy learned a lesson that would reshape interstellar politics forever. The humans had not just won a battle. They had demonstrated a new kind of warfare that made traditional galactic military doctrine obsolete. The age of Kethver dominance was over, and the age of human influence had begun. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in an atmosphere of unprecedented tension. Representatives from over 300 species had gathered on Centauri Station, their various forms of body language indicating everything from fear to fascination to grudging respect. The humans had shattered 3 millennia of galactic stability in less than a day, and now the Council faced the task of deciding how to respond to this new reality. Chancellor Valtara of the Centauri Republic called the session to order with the traditional words that had opened council meetings for centuries. But everyone in the chamber knew that nothing about this meeting would be traditional. The humans had demanded recognition as equals, and they had demonstrated both the capability and the willingness to enforce that demand. The debate that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. For the first time, the Council was forced to consider granting immediate major power status to a species that had never served the traditional apprenticeship period. The humans had bypassed centuries of diplomatic protocol by the simple expedient of proving they were too dangerous to ignore. Representative Morthic of the HFY Empire spoke first, his voice carrying the weight of a species that had been forced to confront its own mortality. Honored colleagues, we have seen the human capability firsthand. They possess weapons technology that makes our own arsenals obsolete. They have tactical systems that reduce our finest military doctrine to ancient history. We can fight them, but we cannot defeat them. The admission sent shockwaves through the chamber. The HFY had never acknowledged military inferiority to any species, and their representatives' words carried the authority of demonstrated fact. If the Empire's finest fleet could be destroyed in 18 minutes, what hope did smaller species have against human military might? Senior analyst Catherine of the Vorth Collective provided the scientific perspective that many representatives needed to understand what they were dealing with. The humans have developed in isolation, without access to galactic knowledge or assistance. They have achieved technological advancement levels that normally require millennia of development. Their industrial capacity is fully mobilized for military production, and their entire social structure is oriented toward competition and conflict resolution. Ambassador Kyle Harrison watched the debate with quiet satisfaction. The humans had not come to the council as supplicants begging for acceptance. They had come as equals demanding recognition, and the galaxy was slowly accepting that reality. The demonstration at Proxima Vel had made it clear that humanity would not be ignored or dismissed. The Zephyrian representative, Tellan, raised the question that many species were thinking but few dared to voice. Ambassador Harrison, your species has demonstrated remarkable military capability. What assurances can you give us that humanity will not use this power to dominate other species? Harrison's response was measured and careful. Representative Tellan, humans have no desire to rule over other species. We have learned from our own history that conquest breeds resentment and eventual rebellion. We seek partnership, not dominance. We offer our friendship to any species that wishes to accept it, but we will not be conquered or controlled by anyone. The vote, when it finally came, was unanimous. The Council granted humanity immediate recognition as a major galactic power, with all the rights and responsibilities that status entailed. The humans would receive a permanent seat on the Council, the right to establish embassies throughout the galaxy and full access to galactic trade networks, but the real changes went far beyond official recognition. The balance of power that had existed for millennia was permanently altered. The HFY Empire, while still powerful, was no longer the galaxy's dominant force. The humans had proven that technological superiority and tactical innovation could overcome numerical advantages and traditional military doctrine. Admiral Reed established the first human embassy on Centauri Station, a modest facility that served as humanity's diplomatic headquarters. The motto inscribed above the entrance was simple but profound: peace through strength. The message was clear to anyone who read it. Humans preferred peaceful solutions, but were prepared to defend their interests through force if necessary. The embassy became a hub of activity as species from across the galaxy sought to understand and engage with humanity. Trade agreements were negotiated, scientific exchanges were established, and cultural programs were developed. The humans proved to be surprisingly adaptable partners, willing to learn from other species while sharing their own knowledge and capabilities. The HFY Empire faced with the reality of human military superiority, became humanity's first major ally. The blue-skinned giants recognized that they could not defeat the humans in battle, but they could benefit from association with such a powerful species. The alliance was born of mutual respect rather than fear, and it proved to be one of the most successful partnerships in galactic history. The Vorth Collective opened extensive scientific exchanges with human researchers eager to understand how such a young species had achieved such remarkable technological advancement. The analytical beings were fascinated by human methods of innovation under pressure, and many Vorth scientists began incorporating human techniques into their own research. The Zephyrians, natural traders and negotiators, quickly established commercial relationships with human colonies. They found that humans were aggressive but fair in their business dealings, willing to compete fiercely but also to honor their agreements completely. Years passed and the galaxy settled into a new equilibrium. The humans had proven themselves to be exactly what they claimed to be, a species that preferred peace but was prepared for war. They participated fully in galactic civilization while maintaining their independence and their readiness to defend their interests. The UES Retribution and her sister ships took up permanent station in the Centauri system, serving as both guardians of human interests and symbols of the new galactic order. The dark ships hung in space like patient predators, their weapons powered down but ready, their crews alert and professional. When alien children learned galactic history in the years that followed, they would always remember the day that changed everything. The day a single species emerged from a distant yellow star system and announced to the universe that Earth had joined the community of worlds. The day the galaxy learned that some species negotiate from a position of strength rather than weakness. The day the galaxy knew fear and learned to respect it. The day that humanity taught the universe that peace was not the absence of conflict, but the presence of justice backed by the capability to enforce it. The day that Earth's children took their place among the stars, not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals who had earned their position through strength, courage, and the willingness to stand firm in defense of their principles.